For my whole life, I've always had like a buffer zone of like 10 to 20K savings. And then I logged onto my banking and it said like -$2. My body went into shock almost. One, because I didn't even see it coming. But then I couldn't pay for parking at this job I hated. Now I can't buy lunch because I've got no money. And in that moment, it was pretty rock bottom. And my mental health was suffering and my physical health was suffering. And I just was hating life. I don't know where to go from here.
What's up, legends? In this episode, I sit down with the author of the brand new book, Unstoppable Success, and I pick her brain on what it really takes to become successful as a female. This woman scaled 5 different businesses by the age of 25 and reveals all of her secrets in this episode.
To showcase at New York Fashion Week 1 week after I'd launched online, like, who the F am I? I'm not a designer. But I was invited to New York Fashion Week because I had the delusional, deepest self-belief that I'm creating a global brand that's going to rival these top brands that have been around for years and years and years.
We talked about all different things, starting with how to actually think so freaking big that it inspires you to take the action and keep going despite fears, doubts, and any limitations that may arise.
And of course, I took the actions, the foundations that allowed me to have that opportunity.
You're going to learn how to hack your brain, overcome fear, and take massive action in your life so you create a life that's more successful than you can ever even imagine.
When I feel confident, then I'll write the book. When I've worked on all my mindset problems, then I'll go and do the biggest goal that I've set for myself.
You're going to learn how to silence the inner critic inside of your head, how to fall in love with failure, and how to become absolutely unstoppable in every single area of your life.
I was at this new level of success that I'd been working towards for so long, but the part of me that was missing was I wasn't allowing myself to dream big. I'd stopped playing in Fantasyland. That's when I actually sat down and I said, I'm going to do a TED Talk. I'm going to surpass 1 million. I'm going to get a publisher for my book. All of those goals happened straight after that. And the one question I asked myself in all of that was,
if you're someone that's on an entrepreneur journey right now and you're looking to create more success, if you're someone who's sometimes ran down by the fears and the doubts and the things that happen in your head, or perhaps you're someone that has big dreams, big ambitions, and you don't know your next steps to get to the next level, then you are going to want to pay attention to this episode. If you're brand new to this channel, I want to welcome you to Dream Nation. We put out episodes every single week that helps you learn the skill set and the mindset to create your dream life. So if you're not yet subscribed yet, hit that button. It'll be the only thing I ever ask you to do. It helps support this channel in more ways than you can imagine. Now, without further ado, let's get into this episode and help me welcome the one and only Jessica Williamson. Jess, welcome to the pod.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Welcome to the Gold Coast. You've just been going crazy on your book tour. You've just written the Unstoppable Success book, which I want to really focus on. So before we dive into it all, why do people need to stop whatever it is they're doing right now and really pay attention to this conversation we're about to have?
Oh, honestly, if you have big goals right now and you want to make them happen faster with less challenges, then you're going to want to tune in, because whatever you're doing right now, it's probably your admin, it's probably your accounting, it's probably scrolling Instagram. It's not going to make you more money. It's not going to get you to your goals right now. So I'd be investing my time here.
Yes. So I was looking for your book and I've watched your stuff for a while, which is really, really cool. You scaled 5 companies by the age of 25 years old.
Yeah.
So obviously your whole book is about creating unstoppable success. You're a savage businesswoman yourself. You're an entrepreneur. You've been in business for a long time. But what I think is cool is, but at 25, I had 1 business that I was doing cool. You had 5 that you had scaled, creators freedom, traveling the world. What's, just to sort of give the listeners some context as to you, a bit of your journey, what's something that's really important that they should probably know about your journey in that whole time, to help give them context of who you are and why they should listen?
Yeah. So something about me is, if I see a challenge, I'm just going to like bust through it. Like nothing stops me. Nothing gets in my way. Not even the time I emptied my entire life savings and had a mental breakdown. Nothing stops me. And it really comes down to my mindset. I actually have like a whole section in the book called My Fantasyland Mindset, where I honestly, and this is just like, you've heard it before, anything and everything is possible, but so many people are playing way smaller than they know they're capable of because of all the what ifs and what if it doesn't work out. But I just said, hey, here I am, zero experience in fashion, but I'm going to create a global fashion brand. And I just had this delusional self-belief. It's like, of course, that's what I'm going to do. What else would I do? And so that's been the key to a lot of my success. It's just like, here I am. I'm going to be a TEDx speaker. My public speaking was my worst nightmare, but I did it. I never read a book until I was 21 years old or 20 years old.
Same.
In my life. And now I'm an author. Like none of it makes any logical sense, but it's because I've always said, why not me? Why can't I?
So I was looking through and I saw a section. Did you hit like absolute rock bottom? Like you lost all your money or something?
Yeah.
Talk us through that. What?
Yeah. Well, I kind of hit rock bottom twice. Didn't learn
the first time?
Slow learner? No. So the first time I was still working full-time in digital marketing, running my growing swimwear brand. I went to New York Fashion Week. It was popping off in that first year, made over 300K in a business that people buy one bikini a year if they're lucky. Like there are so many reasons why it doesn't make any sense that I created that with zero experience. But the moment that I hit rock bottom was because one, I was burnt the hell out. Two, all I did was wake up, work before work, drive an hour to a job I hated, sit there all damn day, go to the post office at lunch, go home, work again. And it was this cycle of like severe burnout, but also a level of anxiousness, a level where I wasn't looking after my health at all. I was just eating whatever was quick and easy. And honestly, if I didn't live at home with my mum at the time, I probably wouldn't have eaten at all because I'm like too busy to eat, too busy to do anything. And so just to backtrack a minute, the reason why let me just lay this out. So I turned up to work one day and I have to pay $12 parking every single day. And it's like almost this dagger to the gut where you're like, I'm at this job I hate to sit here all damn day. Now I've got to pay $12 parking every single day. And this one day I was in such a rush to get to work. I didn't bring any lunch and I was like, I'm just going to buy my lunch. So I get there, I go to pay for my parking and my card declined. And I was like, nah, can't be it. For my whole life, I've always had like a buffer zone of like 10 to 20K savings. I was like a really crazy saver. I was like, nah, surely not. And then I logged onto my banking and it said like -$2. And like my body went into shock almost. One, because I didn't even see it coming. And I was like, where the F has my money gone? Like someone must have stolen it. Where has it gone? But then I couldn't pay for parking at this job I hated. I also didn't have lunch because I was going to buy it, but now I can't buy lunch because I've got no money. And I wasn't keeping track of the money at all. So in that moment, it was pretty rock bottom because I was like, well, I've got no money. My business is barely taking off. This was like a few months into my first business because I'd spent all my money on, I was getting ready to go to New York Fashion Week. I had to make a whole new collection. I was just like, yep, pay for everything. And my mental health was suffering and my physical health was suffering and I just was hating life. So I think it was more like a mental rock bottom where I just thought, I don't know where to go from here. Like I was freaking stuck. I was like, do I go into the office? I would have been 22.
And you already started business by now?
Yeah. So I was 6 months into the business when this happened. Yeah.
So one of the things you said you got to be a big dreamer with a sprinkle of delusion. Mm-hmm. What is that?
Yeah. So I think we all need to be a bit more delusional in our belief because you know and I know whatever you believe will be the outcome. It'll be the truth. So if we believe it won't work, well, of course it's not going to work. If I believed with my first business, it's going to be a hobby or it's going to be just local to Perth, let me play it small, see if it works out, that would have been the outcome. But because I decided with a whole lot of delusion, not even a sprinkle, we just tipped the whole bucket of delusion onto it. I was like, I'm starting a global swimwear brand. And I believed it to my core where I didn't even see any of the challenges ahead of me. I was just like, of course, What else am I doing? I'm creating a global fashion brand. And so it was no surprise that 1 week after I launched, I received an email inviting me to New York Fashion Week.
Really?
To showcase at New York Fashion Week 1 week after I'd launched online. Like, who the F am I? I'm not a designer. I just designed what I like. I'm not a sewer. I'm not an experienced fashion designer. But I was invited to New York Fashion Week because I had the delusional, deepest self-belief that I'm creating a global brand that's going to rival these top brands that have been around for years and years and years. And then, of course, I took the actions that positioned the brand in that way. I manufactured overseas and I created the foundations that allowed me to have that opportunity.
How does one develop that? Because it's so easy to have this big idea, but then instantly the fears, the insecurities, the limiting, the doubts, all these things pop up.
Yeah.
Have you found a process or something? How do we develop this delusion? Because I relate to that a lot.
Yeah. So people often ask me, like, where'd you get it from? I was like, I don't even know. I think I was just born that way.
Yeah.
But now throughout all my trainings and things, I've taught myself how to unlock that for other people. And the number one reason is, one, most people don't actually ask themselves, what do I want? They normally just say, right, I think I should do this. So rather than saying should, ask yourself, like, what do I want if there were no limits? Be as crazy as you want. And if it doesn't scare you, you're not being delusional enough. You're not playing in Fantasyland. But the second thing then is identifying where you're sabotaging the shit out of it. Because you're like, okay, I want to believe that can happen, but deep down you don't believe it. And your self-sabotage is going to play out in ways such as procrastination, lack of motivation. I don't believe in either of those because they're just symptoms of self-sabotage where your subconscious says, that's unsafe for me. That's not possible for me. I'm going to, something bad is going to happen. Maybe I might empty my life savings like Jess did and hit mental breakdown, or people are going to judge me. There are so many fears attached to success that our subconscious is like, don't worry, I got you. Don't worry. We're going to keep you safe. So we're just going to make you procrastinate for a little while. We're going to give you a lack of motivation. We're going to do all the things we can do to make sure you never get there. And with those two things, it's literally that simple. Anything becomes possible because I didn't know how to manufacture. I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know how to do any of the things. But if you have that belief and you get out of your own damn way, you just make up the how. Honestly, I made up most of the shit that I did, but you make it up. You trial and error. You figure it out. You use our good old friend Google or now ChatGPT. The answers are out there.
Yeah, everyone's making up shit as they go along.
Yeah.
So I say to people a lot, I'm like if they bring me a business problem, I've never done this business, but if I were you, I would just do this. I'm like, oh, how do you know? I don't know, but I'm just making shit up. Everyone's making up shit as they go along. Just try things and see what happens.
But I actually find that the number one question I get asked, and you probably get asked this as well, is how should I do it?
Yeah.
Just tell me the steps. And I'm like, I can give you the steps, but you're not going to do it if you're self-sabotaging. The amount of times I've given people exact steps and it's actually more simple than they ever thought, but they don't do it because they're sabotaging. And so that's where I believe like mindset is number one. The doing just happens when you work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is Fantasyland?
Yeah. So Fantasyland is what you could imagine. I mean, there's no unicorns there, but maybe there is. Maybe you want a pet unicorn and you can imagine whatever you want. But Fantasyland, people say it in a negative way. They say, don't play in Fantasyland, be realistic. We even see SMART goals with the bloody R.
I hate it.
Realistic. Fuck realistic. We don't need realistic goals. We need to be unrealistic because that's the only way to make unrealistic shit happen.
I think there's like a science to this, right? And I was talking about this on the weekend because when I learned SMART goals, I hate it for so long. And it's big in NLP and I'm like, I don't like it.
No.
But you've got to look at nothing's ever just one way either though, right? Because if you were to say to the Wright brothers, is it realistic to get a whole bunch of metal and put some fans on it and then carry people across the other side of the world? No way back then, right? But it was so unrealistic, but they created the airplane. And I think it's very wise to have a vision that's extremely unrealistic, and then break it down into because you do need a level of realism. Have you found that? Like at some point you've got to break it down to be like, okay, what is this realism in the nearer future that is not so airy-fairy, but it's more tangible, that goes, oh, I'm so excited to get that. And it's like the journey. Have you found that?
I just leap.
You just go, you just hold this.
Because the thing is, and this is where I can't do the 10-year goals. People are like, what are your 10-year goals? Well, if I knew what I wanted to do, I'd do it today. So I always dream as big as I can. And I actually set the goal to do my TEDx in July last year. By December, I had done it. And this is how I've collapsed so much time, because I don't say, let me just start small and then see, and take the steps. I actually just say, what is the actual complete end goal that I want, and what do I need to do to make it happen now? So in a way, I break it down into steps, but I look at what is that end goal that I truly want, and how do I get it now? What do I need to do, and where might I be overcomplicating it? Because most people believe that things have to take a long ass time, because they're like, put all these checkpoints in place. They're just like not even necessary. And so sometimes we can just say, screw the branding, or screw the, if it's not necessary. Like sometimes it's a nice to have, but sometimes it's not the thing that's going to get us there. Like for me with my TEDx, I said, I want to do a TEDx. Just decided, here I am, I'm going to do a TEDx. And so I started researching, how do you do a TEDx? How do you format it? How do you apply? And I started creating this long-ass spreadsheet of every TEDx in the world. Because you and I both know a yes is just a numbers game. So I was like, let me hit up every single one in the world. They only open applications at certain times. So I was starting to spreadsheet it. When do I need to apply for all of them? Because you hear the stories, people apply for TEDx for like years and years and years.
Yeah.
So I was prepared. But I was making this spreadsheet, and about 2 months went by and I was like, still haven't applied to any. I got to make the damn spreadsheet first. But then I called myself out and I said, Jess, you don't need the bloody spreadsheet. You just need to apply to one. So I actually applied to 2 on the Monday. And by the Wednesday, I had a reply saying, we love your idea. But sometimes people put like all these checkpoints. It's like, do I need a spreadsheet? No, I just need to apply to 1 or 2. And then next week I'll apply to 1 or 2 more. And I would have continued that for however long it needed to. So I just see the end goal and say, just let's make it happen today.
So it's that simple to get one. So because there's so many people that would pay big money to go on a TEDx stage.
Yeah.
And I've had people be like, I can get you on one for 10 grand. I'm like, dude, if I really wanted one, I would probably be able to figure it out. I haven't really cared too much to go down the path of it. But for other people who might be listening to this, if they're like, I want to get on the TEDx stage, you made it sound so simple. So what are the steps? Like if they want to go book themselves, what are they doing?
The thing with TEDx is they're all independently organised. So, I mean, to be honest, some people get in because they know the organiser. I didn't know anyone. So you have to pitch a bloody good idea that the organiser resonates with. So that's other caveat, right? Because it's the same with pitching any good idea. One, you can pitch as many people as you want, but if they specifically don't resonate with it, you're not going to get a yes. So you have to pitch an idea that has never been done before on any TEDx stage in the world. So I did my research first.
What did you do yours on?
I did mine on being obnoxiously successful.
Cool.
And owning your obnoxious success. Yeah. So I did all my research around just typing in keywords like success or fear of success or females in success or any keywords into the TEDx YouTube and just see what comes up and see how can I make a gap, because ultimately no idea is a new idea. It's just reframed in a new way. So I looked at all of them and I looked at the things that I'm passionate about, my messages that I want to leave on the world, and how do I position it in a way that's going to cut through. So then I pitched the idea. Different TEDx ones, they want you to submit a video. This one didn't. It was just written. What's your idea? What's the title? And then we'll have a chat and interview and see if you're good.
So just Googling, finding them, doing your research, setting off pitches.
So on the TEDx website, they have a list of all of the upcoming ones in the whole world. But they don't tell you when the application's open because that's by individual, franchise or whatever it is. So you find them, then you have to find their website and figure out how do you apply to this specific one, because they all have different ways. A lot of them you have to email them because it's not obvious on their website. So that's why I was creating a whole spreadsheet so I could figure out, how do I apply? When do I apply? What do I need to do to make this happen?
I love it. One thing you talk about is timing, and I talk about it as well. Like, one of my laws of my Dreamlad method is the right timing. And I know a lot of people can fall into the pattern of getting ready to get ready to get ready. This is the procrastination cycle. Yeah. How do people avoid this?
Yeah. One, you have to recognize that you're doing it, because most people don't even realize they're doing it. They're like, no, I got to work on this 50-page PDF before I can start selling to my audience. And I'm just like, just sell to them. So you need to actually recognize and realize when you're sabotaging, when you're procrastinating. And I often say, draw a map almost on where your goal is and where you are now. What is the most direct route? Like, if you want to make 10K next month, do you need a PDF? No, you don't. You just need to sell. So what is the most direct route to get there? And forget the rest. We can do the PDF later. We can do the branding later. We can do all these other things. Just sell first. And I actually did this about 2 years ago. I was like, cool, I want to go through a massive scaling phase. So I actually stopped making sales pages altogether. No sales pages, no nothing. I just had a checkout. And I sold people straight to that. And because of that, one, got over my fear of selling and being salesy. I sold every single day direct to checkout. And I made a 78K week because of that. Just through socials, kept it so simple and stripped it right back. So maybe if right now you're doing the most, then just ask yourself, is this 100% necessary? And if it's not, don't do it. Just leave it for later, and you can always add it back in later.
What I'm very curious to know is, so you've got these big ideas, you got Fantasyland, and you're like, I can just get it. Like, you seem to have there's no resistance in the middle of idea, I'm going to do it. And what I'm really curious to know is how you think. So how do you know that there's no limitations in the middle?
Yeah. And this is interesting because I was really stumped on this, and you asked me yesterday, what are all the challenges to getting to your goals? And I was like, what challenges? What challenge is there? And so my brain just actively does not see challenges. Again, it doesn't mean there is none. Mm-hmm. I just actively don't see a challenge. And so
how do you view challenges? What I'm trying to elicit, I guess, is the belief you tell yourself. So when you're here's Fantasyland, I want to go after it. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm curious because there's some fundamental belief that you believe to be true about yourself and your ability to get that done.
Yeah.
That lacks from other people. And if we can model people's beliefs and take them on, we can achieve the same results. A lot of people would be like, oh, but it's scary, it's this, and these things come up. And I'm trying to understand, what is it that you don't tell yourself, or you do tell yourself, that allows you to go, fuck it, it's fine? Or have you got a mantra? Have you been able to identify that in yourself?
Yeah. So I always say, where there is a will, there's always a way, but it depends how willing you are to do it. And most people aren't willing. That's the problem. Most people aren't willing to endure discomfort, to endure, being seen and looking silly. People aren't willing to push a little bit harder or spend a little bit more time to master something. And so I always say the question is not, will it happen? It's, are you willing to make it happen? Because there's always a way. And I actually, do you know what the craziest part? Facebook shows you your memories. I never go on Facebook anymore, but a few years ago it popped up with a memory that I wrote back in 2011 when I was 18 years old. It said exactly those words. Where there is a will, there's always a way. Just watch me. And I don't know what the hell I was doing at 18 years old, but it's always been a mantra for me, and it's never been more true in terms of everything that I'm doing. Most people aren't willing to do a nationwide book tour. Because, logistics are hard. One girl told me, I've never done an event because I don't know how to find a venue. you can let that be your story. You can let that be, or you get on Google. I literally said to her, have you heard of Google before? Type it in, venue in Melbourne, and you find one. You know, most people just aren't willing to look for the answer.
Why do you think that is?
They don't actually want to. They're subconscious. Well, consciously they say, I want to run an event. But subconsciously their mind is saying, no, you don't. Because when you run an event, you're now visible. When you run an event, you're now susceptible to no one turning up to your event. When you run an event, you might lose money and a shit ton of it. But when you run an event, shit might go wrong. And so most times people aren't even consciously aware of the beliefs and the subconscious patterns playing out. And so I always say to people, if you feel resistance towards anything, or if you say you hate something, whether you hate not having money, whether you hate always having painful clients, what is it that you have resistance around or you consciously say you hate? Because there's probably a good reason that your subconscious is loving those things.
Yeah, there's always a payoff, right?
Yeah.
There's always some sort of payoff. And I ask people that sometimes and they don't like it because unconsciously it's like, well, the payoff is I get to avoid it and I stay comfortable. That's easy because I'm chasing the pleasure and we're avoiding pain. Continually every day we're chasing pleasure, avoiding pain. It's an interesting kind of dance.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, once someone's kind of created their success, because for me, there was definitely a period where I'm like, what was really driving me was to not be broke. I'm like, I just want to have money. I want to be able to travel. I want to do what I want. And then I get there and somewhat the motivation sort of dies a bit. So for the people that have somewhat created their success, how can they avoid staying complacent? Like, what are some things you've done? Like, how do you avoid being complacent when you can wake up and go like, oh, I'm just going to actually go on a holiday this week, not talk to anybody?
Yeah.
What do you do? What's up, Dream Nation? Have you ever wondered how far ahead your life would have already been if you had got access to this type of content at a younger age? Look, this is why I need your help. I'm trying to build the #1 personal development platform out there to teach you guys the tips, tricks, and attitude of what it takes to live your dream life and to bring the type of education that we all wish we had in school. This show only grows by word of mouth and new subscribers, so it would mean the world to me if you could smash that subscribe button right now, leave us a 5-star written review or drop a comment below and share this episode with a friend. I would be forever grateful. All right, now let's get back into this episode.
I actually, when you said that, I'm almost like, I don't think I would ever do that. And I'm sure you're the same. Like, I don't think you would ever wake up and be like, I'm great how I am. I think it's almost ingrained. But for me,
For me, I don't, like, sometimes I'm like, I know I could do things to make more money. But I just don't care.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't need to. I want to now. And I'm kind of like, could I just fucking hang out and go skydive today or go on a holiday as well, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I wouldn't go forever, but it's like sometimes I just notice that sometimes within myself going like trying to continually tap into that next, and especially when you hit a new goal. Hit a new goal, crush it again, and we're like, okay, well, what's next? Well, I don't know.
Yeah. So this happened to me recently, actually. Last year I went on like a 7-week European vacation, you know, spent over 60K just traveling Europe. And I was at this new level of success that I'd been working towards for so long, where I was traveling Europe, spending this money for me and my fiance, and also my business was bringing in tons of income while I was traveling. I had 7 complete weeks off. But internally, there was a part of me that was like, something feels off. Something feels misaligned for me. And I was like, oh, but everyone, like, I should be grateful right now. Like, and I was so grateful. Here's me, I'm enjoying my life. But there was something internally that was like, feels misaligned. Something feels a bit off. And the first few weeks were great. I was like, on a holiday, you start to detach from your business. But then I became more detached from my business. And I was like, something's not right here. And it was almost this narrative that I was telling myself that you should just be happy doing this. You shouldn't be doing your business because you're on vacation. You're not allowed to dream bigger right now because you just got to enjoy this holiday. You should be so grateful for all the money flowing in, the impact you're making, all the good stuff, right? But the part of me that was missing was I wasn't allowing myself to dream big. I'd stopped playing in Fantasyland because I said, well, I should be happy here. I should be happy now. And it was the biggest part of me around growth that I was saying, you're not allowed that. I was denying the part of me that loves growth. And so when I came back from Europe, that's when I actually sat down and I said, I'm going to do a TED talk. I'm going to surpass 1 million. I'm going to, get a publisher for my book. All of those goals happened straight after that. And the one question I asked myself in all of that was, what part of me am I denying in this pursuit? And I think that's where we can sometimes become complacent because we either tell ourselves or we get told, you should be happy now. But I was denying the part of me that needed growth to feel truly fulfilled.
There's so much to unpack here. So one of the quotes in your book, you said, the reason you don't have the level of success you want is because at an unconscious level, you do not want it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the fundamental thing that holds everybody back or that controls all the results or lack of results we have is our unconscious brain.
Yeah.
Because the one thing it wants to do is avoid pain, avoid fear, avoid the things that it thinks is a threat.
Yeah.
And in the pursuit of success, there is going to come things which go against the number one fear of the world, which is it's public speaking, fear of not being loved, fear of not being accepted, all these types of things. Have you got any sort of hack on how they can destroy these little internal fears of things? Well, what if this, or what if this, or what if this? Because I feel like it's a continual just game of overriding that in our brain.
Yeah. Most of the time, people are trying to treat the symptoms and not the actual problem. So when it comes to procrastination, people say, write a better to-do list. When it comes to motivation, they say, how can I just get more amped? When it comes to resistance toward things, people say, just get it done. But the number one piece that I think people miss out is diagnosis. What is the actual fear? Because fear of judgment is not specific. That's just saying I got a sore tummy. Well, what's the problem with your tummy that's creating the soreness? And so if it's a fear of judgment, what are you afraid of people saying about you? What specifically is the worst thing someone could say? And for everyone, it's so different. And I work with my clients on this. Some of them are so afraid of charging a high price because they don't want to be called a scammer. For me, it was the fear of being seen as arrogant. If I said, I am so proud of myself, look at the success I've created, I was afraid that someone would see me as arrogant. And so I think we need the diagnosis first, because now I can work on my fear of being seen as arrogant, not my fear of judgment as a blanket approach. And so when we can get really, really specific, almost that awareness alone dissipates it. Because now I'm aware that I'm over editing every single social media post so that I don't come across as arrogant. Now I just won't do it. And I think some people almost use mindset work as an excuse to continue to stay stuck. Because they're like, when I feel confident, then I'll write the book. When I've worked on all my mindset problems, then I'll go and do the biggest goal that I've set for myself. But it's like, actually, sometimes we need to find out what it is, be aware of it, and then just don't do it. Now you're aware of it. You have the choice in every single moment. You have the choice to continue to play it out, or you have the choice to choose a new pathway. And you're not always going to choose the new pathway, but it's being consciously aware and bringing yourself back to the person that you want to be and the way you want to show up.
Why is failing good?
Failing is bloody great, but I don't believe in failure. The word doesn't really exist in my vocabulary, but I love failure because not just that you learn from it, but you build resilience from it. And you're like, well, if I can handle that and I can show my subconscious that I did not die in the process, I'm no longer afraid of it. The worst case scenario happened and I'm going to just get back up and keep going.
Do you think that's a thing that stops a lot of people? Like this fear of like this failure, like how they imagine in their head, they imagine the most craziest possible outcome ever happening. And that's what just immobilizes them.
I actually think most ambitious people are more afraid of success than failure. Because if we are ambitious people, we're afraid that if we try hard, we're going to end up right back where we started. So we almost see ourselves as a failure now. We wouldn't necessarily label ourselves as that, but it's like if I take the leap and I fall, I'm just going to be right back here, maybe sometimes a little bit lower. But the worst thing to happen to an ambitious person is to not reach that goal.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like I actually set goals to not hit, to be honest.
Yeah.
I have hit some goals before and it's pissed me off when I've hit them.
Yeah.
Because I arrived and I'm like, what if it was bigger?
Yeah.
Perfect example is because we'll deploy the amount of potential inside of us that we need to get to the goal line. There was a study that they did in the Balsamis lab, I'm pretty sure it was, in America, where they were testing high achievers and they were testing people pursuing their goals. And what they noticed is if they actually had a finish line, so there's one group of people, they said, okay, this is the race you got to do and you got to get to the finish line, focus on the finish line. The other people were just told to run. The people that got to the finish line, they admitted that it felt 22% less effort they used to actually get there, but they did it 12% better than the other group, the other test group. And so the thing is actually having the goal has been shown that we'll not only get there faster, but we'll do it with less effort.
Yeah.
And so we'll deploy the potential needed to actually get it done. Me and my partner were doing CrossFit one day, and there was 3 of us all working in a group, and we had to complete X amount of wall balls and all this shit. And it was at the end of our set, and I did 15 wall balls, dropped it, and she goes, how many did you do? The music's playing, it's loud, and I go, 15. And she goes, okay. And she's Lithuanian, so her second language is English, so I put that into the mix as well. And she's doing all these wall balls. She's like, bang, 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 more. And I'm watching, and I'm like, maybe she's gone for 20. Maybe she's gone for 25. I didn't want to say anything because she was helping with the team get the points. I'm like, keep going, baby. And she's absolutely killed by the end of it. She drops the last one. She goes, 50. And I'm like, how many? She goes, 50. Isn't that what we're doing? I said 15. Now, she did 3 and a bit more than what me and the other guy did, only because she thought that's what the bar was.
Yeah.
She thought that was the freaking bar. And so I think about this when I set goals. I'm like, whatever we say this is the goal, we're going to deploy the potential to get there. So if I hit it, I'm actually really pissed off because I know I probably could have got a lot further. I settled for 15 when if I convinced myself 50 is the bar, I could have also got that.
I always say that as well. If you set the goal at 100%, you're probably going to reach 80. If you set the goal at 200%, you're probably going to reach 150. And so it's like, that's why I'm so passionate about, saying let's set unrealistic goals. Let's play in Fantasyland because we're always going to achieve something way higher than if we set something realistic. Let's say 15 is realistic. But she was like, I'm in Fantasyland 50.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing. And with failure, so I was reading a study the other day. Did you know that they've actually found the perfect amount of percentage that we need to fail to learn effectively at our optimal level?
Yeah.
So they said that if we fail 15% of the time, that's what we actually should be striving for because it challenges our brain enough for us to feel the growth, get the learning, and learn effectively.
Yeah.
Because if you think about like playing a video game, if it was so easy and we passed every single time, it'd be too easy and eventually we wouldn't learn anymore. But if we fail too much, it's too challenging, it's too hard, we check out and we don't do it. And so I think embracing the failure, but actually like factoring into the plan, going, how can I fail at this just a little bit? It's been proven that we not only learn faster, but we'll become more successful as well because it's part of the freaking journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is when people set goals, right? And they're so afraid they're not going to hit the goal, they set a smaller goal.
Yeah.
Because internally, if they don't hit it, they make up a story about themselves. I'm not a good business owner. When I hit goals, I don't achieve them. And so there's actually a balance. So maybe for people like you and me, we have a high risk threshold. We go all in. We have a lot of evidence that when we set goals, we hit the shit out of it and we go past it. But if there's people stuck in a lot of self-doubt, self-belief challenges, that actually they need to set a smaller goal to create evidence
Confidence,
that
yeah.
when they set a goal, they actually achieve it. And then once they start to get that confidence to actually then set some crazy out there goals.
100%. Yeah, I 100% agree. Every single year at the start of the year, I put out a video or a podcast episode and it says, do not set big goals this year. Because everyone's like, New Year's resolutions, I'm going to lose 50 kilos, I'm going to make a millionaire. It's like, bro, you haven't hit a gym in the last 10 years. You've never made more than $60,000 in a year. And now you think this is going to be the year. It's so fucking big where you don't have the foundations yet to actually, the building blocks to hit that, to accelerate to that goal.
Yeah.
So I'm like, set something small, something that you can actually hit. Like set something that you can crush in the next month. So instead of being, I'm going to lose 50 kilos, go, I'm just going to commit to working out 20 times the next month.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for one walk a day, because you can manage that. You can manage your activity, and the byproduct of doing the activity will get you the outcome of the goal. And it's like what you said, like building the evidence inside of our brain that enforces our identity. Because now when you and I set goals, I'm like, well, I'm the motherfucker that gets that shit done because I've done all these other things. But if I had failed all these goals or I didn't have the momentum yet, I wouldn't have that self-esteem, I wouldn't have that self-image of myself to actually, that I could do it.
Yeah.
So it's a case-by-case study.
Yeah.
Like on how people are based on where they are on the journey, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Before we wrap it up, I want to know if people could only get one thing from this book.
Yeah.
Like if you were to say like my one piece of advice to create massive amounts of unstoppable success in your life,
Yeah.
what is it?
So the one thing, if anyone can take anything from this book, is what does your idea of success look like? Because if we are not clear on this, there's no way in hell we can ever reach it, one. But two, we may end up somewhere else. It's kind of like plugging something into the GPS. One, you have to know your start destination. But two, you have to know where you're going. If you're in a new city, you've got your rental car, you're driving around, you might have a fun adventure, but you also might miss some pretty epic things if you're just driving around aimlessly. So having that clear idea on where you're going, what your idea of success actually means. Some people, it's just spending more time with their kids. Maybe they don't want the $1 million. I'm going to assume though, if you're listening to this, you've probably got a good monetary goal as well, but really getting clear on your idea of success first is the key. Otherwise, you're going to look at other people, potentially fall in comparison and just say, oh, that must be what success should look like. Maybe people look at you or they look at me and they say, right, I need to do what they're doing because that looks pretty successful. And I see so many people get off track with that. So decide that first. And then we create the direct route to get you there. And it's going to feel a whole lot more fulfilling when it's your version of success.
I love it. Where can everybody find you on social media and get your book?
Yeah, you can find me at just@Williamson8 on Instagram. And you can get my book. You can Google Unstoppable Success, hit up any of your local bookstores in Australia, Amazon, Booktopia, Unstoppable Success.
I love it. Beautiful. To wrap it up, I got a final question. If you were to go back to your 18-year-old self and give her 30 seconds of advice, what would it be?
Don't be so serious all the time. Have a bit more fun because life is meant to be enjoyed.